Hello and welcome to a special podcast we're doing for Jump Shots. Normally it's all in text-based, but today we're going with audio because we're talking to Simon Jatsch, who runs inthegame.org, a great stats site on European basketball. Simon, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Simon, first off, I suppose, because it's a pretty detailed site, like I was looking through it there over the season, and you put an awful lot of work into it, so I suppose the obvious question to ask is, what was the inspiration to begin with?
I guess after the beginning of the new millennium, the advanced stats movement really spread out in the NBA, and there was nothing like that in Europe. And I first dived into that about 2005, 2006. And yeah, time after time, developed some understanding for this, and I started building the site at the end of 2008, but at the really end, the full season of 2000, or the full year of 2009, I had this site installed and was posting advanced stats there, just because there was nothing like that in Europe. So all the stuff that I was posting, I had known from the NBA, but it didn't exist for European basketball.
I suppose the big change this year is that there's typically 8 more games for the teams who made top 16.
Right.
Like the extra games give you more reliability of data with that regard.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's a big difference. Just 8 games, but there's a big difference between, say, having 2/3 of your field play 16 games or have them 24 games, because that's kind of 20, 25, 30 games is when it starts getting reliable, and you have some reliability as to how a player would have performed after 50 games or 80 games. You see that with NBA stats, for example. But when you just have 10 games or 16 games, it doesn't really tell you much, because it can fluctuate so much from season to season.
Outliers can have such a bigger impact, I suppose, when it's a small sample.
Right.
And I suppose one of the things I noticed for your site, just looking ahead to the Final Four this week, is one thing I really particularly liked, actually, is you really rate each lineup for each team. I suppose just looking at that, I suppose in terms of the Final Four teams themselves, what was the thinking behind that? Was that something you got inspired from NBA stats, or was it just your own idea there?
No, that's also inspired from NBA stats, as most of the stuff that I'm doing, although I'm modifying some stuff. But the lineup data, the site 82games.com, very good site, which has been outplayed a bit recently by other news sites in the US. There's a big competition going on, but they had this first, and we have lineups, 5-player units that I would gather coaches could really use, where we see how many points those lineups score, how much they concede, how much possessions they have, and so on.
I suppose in terms of matchups, that comes in handy as well. So I suppose looking at the lineups, we'll go through them, I suppose, in alphabetical orders of the 4 teams. With Barcelona, the big thing is they don't have Pete Michael anymore.
Right.
In terms of the changes to their lineups, what has been the more effective since they lost him?
Well, they lost him just before the end of top 16. So really, we've only had the Panathinaikos series of serious basketball. They were already advanced when he went down, and so they had 2 games when they were already qualified for quarterfinals. In that quarterfinal series, some small ball stuff with Sarunas Jasikevičius and Navarro playing alongside one another on the 2 and 3, and also Abrines worked pretty well. What really didn't work well was just Ingles, who was a standard small forward, replacing Michael. He didn't have a good series, and that also didn't translate to the team level.
And I suppose as well, he's a very different player to Michael really in what he does. And never mind that Michael had an excellent season in Euroleague. You're putting a different guy really in that role, aren't you?
Oh yeah, Ingles is a very good player, but Michael had an MVP caliber season. I'm not sure he would have won it, seeing how what guys they chose for the first all Euroleague team. I don't know.
It's in the popularity contest deal, right? Yeah,
that's true. But Ingles is a very good versatile player, but Michael just brought a scoring punch that he's the best one-on-one player in Europe, and in my opinion, in the last 5 years, and Ingles is not replacing that. Very good all-round player and very good defender as well, though.
And I suppose looking then at CSKA Moscow, of course, finalists last year, big upset in that final against Olympiacos. What's been working for them, I suppose, in terms of rotations?
they brought in a really tall lineup just 6 games ago. As you know, Erceg and Kriapa were injured for most of the season, at least one of those, so they never really played together. But when they came back, Messina brought a lineup, a really tall lineup with Kriapa on the 3, Erceg on the 4, and Kaun on the 5, which has been, and Weems on the 2 as well, which has been overpowering opponents all throughout. And that really showed up only in the last few games. I think it's a major obstacle for Olympiacos in that semi-final series.
And so I was like looking at their opponent in Olympiacos, like what would you think as being their best way of approaching that, and what they have like data wise, like from your own data, like what would you do if you were there on the bench?
Well, the thing with Batsoka as Olympiacos coach is that he's pretty consistent with lineups. He doesn't seem to be the type who just moves players around, and I guess you got to establish a culture for that first. You can't just go in and modify everything like you want. You have to kind of make your players understand that before. And it seems guys like Pascual from Barcelona or Messina have already established that, and but Sokos goes in a different way. He's for example, he's bringing his clear-cut best center, Kyle Hines, off the bench very late, often just a few minutes into the second quarter, and he has a player like Josh Powell who really hasn't played well this season, play large minutes as starter. So it seems that I don't expect them to modify a lot for the semi-final series. I think they go their way as they've done for most of the season, and for them that usually means that they're gonna have a relatively poor start. But that second unit with Hines in and guys like Peperoglu as well is really strong, and they can hurt a lot their opponents in that.
Deliberately left Real to last because like it's a sort of classic eyeball test versus what the data tells you. Because for me, eyeball test, I look at Real Madrid, exceptionally talented lineup, but I just can't trust them in a one-game situation. Do the stats back that up, like, or is it much more complicated than that?
Well, Real Madrid is an interesting case. First, you have basically 2 units. They have a starting unit and they have a very, very strong bench unit, which plays a lot of minutes together with guys like Reyes, who's just a massive threat on defensive boards, and a really great scorer like Carroll, and a really good point guard like Sergio Rodriguez. In general, Real Madrid is a very interesting case because they shoot the ball really poorly from the field. They have a field goal percentage similar to a team like Alba Berlin, for example, didn't really do much damage in top 16, but they generate so many extra possessions through rebounding the ball extremely well on both ends of the floor, where they're top 3 in offensive and defensive rebounding percentage. They keep turnovers low. They are first in turnover percentage from the bottom. They are second in opponent turnover percentage. So they don't shoot the ball well. They're not really efficient in using their possessions, but they generate so many extra possessions that it's just the sheer volume that overpowers opponents.
I suppose in sticking with R&B, Rudy Fernandez obviously is probably the highest profile addition to Euroleague this season. Like what's working and what does he have to adjust to, I suppose, in the change of environment?
Well, I think Rudy is a fantastic all-round player. He's a fantastic three-point shooter, fantastic assistant for a small forward, and a very good ball thief. He's not a really efficient player, mainly because he's taking a lot of jump shots. But he's got that tendency to be everywhere on the court, especially on good days. He's probably not the most consistent player, but certainly he's the guy who puts Real Madrid over the top. When he's on, he's definitely one of the best players in the league.
And two of the players from looking at your stats that really jumped out for me as in things I wouldn't have thought of until I was reading your site, that I suppose Milo Teodosic, despite what you might think watching TV, isn't prone to jack threes when in trouble. And Kostas Papanikolaou really relies on assists for any of the threes he takes.
Oh, yeah. Teodosic has that reputation of erupting whenever his team is down. He's just jacking up shots, which the numbers don't really, at least for this season, the numbers don't really reflect. And Papanikolaou he's a catch-and-shoot player. He doesn't really have the ability to create shots for himself. But in general, He's been being assisted a lot by Spanoulis, and that is kind of a characteristic of that Olympiacos team, that they have this one top level shot creator, probably the best in the whole league, who makes teammates measurably better. He improves their field goal percentages a great deal, and he also mounts the percentage of field goals that are created by an assist when he's on the floor. So he breaks down the defense and then distributes the ball, even if he's not scoring well, which we saw in the quarterfinal series that just ended, where he shot something like 13 for 50 from the field, which is pretty terrible. But still made,
especially by his standards, yeah.
Yeah, still made a great impact though.
And this was a Papanikolaou as well, as rights are owned by the Blazers in the NBA. Would that be like looking at a stat like that he doesn't do much after dribble? Would that affect his eyes him in their eyes? Do you reckon?
I think it shouldn't, because I think teams are looking a lot for those players. He's a long, athletic wing player, a very good defender in Europe. I think that can also translate over. And in the end, a lot of NBA teams have guys that can play on the ball and create shots. And they're looking for low turnover, high efficiency shooters, which Papanikolaou also is. He's shooting over 40% from three throughout the last 2 seasons.
Intelligent when he takes a shot, I suppose.
Sorry?
He's very intelligent about what shots he takes, really, isn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's not forcing anything. He's just letting the game come to him and taking shots that he can make. And I think that's a very valuable skill. My friend Rafael Jatsch from Eurohopes once had a very intelligent tweet saying, "Look, there's not only star players, there are also star role players, guys that play their role in a manner, in an efficiency that is unrivaled." And Papanikolaou is amazing as a sidekick to Spanoulis or any guy who can create open looks.
And so looking at a star player who definitely has an issue in his game, we discussed before on Twitter, Juan Carlos Navarro, massively important for the Barcelona offense, of course, but he's not really been showing up on D this season. Is that consistent with his past seasons, or is there a particular drop this year?
Well, defense is generally, as you know, difficult to measure. So we don't really have any numbers that could tell us he's been this good or that bad. I guess he's never had the reputation of being a good defender. But on the other hand, Barca has been an elite defensive team for the last 3 years, whenever Pascal came in. And he's been part of that with a large number of minutes. So that is also something to consider. I don't believe you could hide a lot of bad defenders in a very good defensive team. And they also have guys like Lorbeck, who's also got the reputation of being a poor defender. So somehow they make this work. I don't think that has really been explored as to how they do it. But yeah, I mean, Navarro I think his defense is also sort of suffering from the fact that he's carrying a lot of responsibility on the offensive end. While on the floor, compared to total pick and rolls, he's running 75% of them. So he's creating a large part of the Barca offense, despite them having a lot of very good offensive players. I think that has something to do with his relatively poor defense as well.
As I was looking, of course, we've got 2 games coming up this Friday. I know we're both going to be in London for them. As well as in terms of the marketing side, it's the ideal pairing because you've got an El Clasico in London, despite it not happening in the football this year.
Right.
And you got a rematch of last year's final. So we'll start off with the rematch, Šeška against Olympiacos Piraeus. Like, what do you see as being sort of the deciding factors, just from what you've seen numbers-wise, I suppose?
Well, both teams are probably the 2 bottom teams in terms of defensive efficiency, but CSKA is also the best offensive team in the Euroleague this season. They are clear favorites here, despite Olympiacos' reputation of showing up in big games. CSKA have the deeper roster. They have more individual quality. They have a very good coach who is not just restrictive, as some people say. He's just very innovative, and I think he's made this team work in a very, very intelligent fashion. I remember he had teams that were usually really defensive-minded in the past, but this season's team is completely different.
And so the thing is, they're looking a bit stronger this year, even though they haven't got AK-47 Kirilenko playing for them.
Right. I mean, they have less talent probably. They brought in some let's say low profile guys, like at least for this level, for CSKA level, like Mitsov and Aaron Jackson as well. And they have a guy like Sasha Kaun who's playing an absolutely fantastic season, especially defensively. So they have, several players just upped their game a little on that roster, and it's been a pretty good season for them.
And I suppose the other one, of course, it's El Clásico. Real are sort of have the advantage in terms of the ACB this year, but like Barca obviously beat them in 3-2 in the series last year for the Spanish Championship. Like looking at this game, like what's going to be important? Is it going to be a second chance opportunities for Real and Barca stopping them, or what do you see as being vital?
I think that is vital, yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if you see how Real win games, it's not by shooting well, as I explained. It's about rebounding the ball and keeping turnovers low and forcing turnovers. And, they're facing one of the best offensive teams and also defensive teams in the EuroLeague. Not sure how that plays out without Michael, but I guess Real Madrid are favorites at this point, also because Barca are suffering injuries from Wallace, who's a very good backup power forward and who would be the first guy to ask to contain Reyes on the defensive boards. And I mean, they have Todorovic waiting, who's also a very good rebounder, who might be able to contain Reyes. But yeah, that's a big if. So it seems like Real Madrid are slightly in the favorite in this game.
And so Simon, just before I let you go, for people who are going to be following you on Twitter at Shakas during, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. I'll be spelling it properly on my side during the Final Four. Like what'll you be providing updates on as you're going along and on the site as well?
First, I will be live blogging from the Final Four, of course, and also from the NIJT, the Nike International Junior Tournament, which is a very good tournament, always very entertaining, a lot of scouts there and a lot of people you meet and very good prospects you see. So, yeah, I think I'll be spending a lot of time in the soccer dome right next to the O2 Arena in London to watch that tournament as well. And I think it's always exciting to see prospects play and later follow how they come to the pros and so on. So, yeah, you can expect that, and of course we'll be updating stats as we always do, so you can get all the lineups and the advanced stats on the Final Four games and all that.
And for anybody listening, I really can't stress how good it is to follow Simon during live games. So do follow him on Twitter during the games. Simon, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Your website, of course, in-the-game.org. We'll have that spelled out just so it's easier for people on our site. Thanks for joining us, Simon.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.